The Galactic Consortium's flagship, Illuminator, broke through Earth's atmosphere in a display of shimmering light that rendered global defense systems temporarily useless. Admiral Xenteros stood on the command deck, his scaled skin reflecting the blue-green planet below, as he contemplated how easily this new world would bend to the Consortium's benevolent guidance. "Life signs are abundant, Admiral," reported Science Officer Lizani, her slender fingers manipulating a holographic display. "Preliminary scans indicate a Type 1 civilization, barely unified, with rudimentary space exploration limited to their own satellite and nearby moon." Xenteros flicked his tail in amusement. "Another young species. How fortunate for them we've arrived before they destroy themselves." On Earth, chaos erupted. Military bases worldwide scrambled fighter jets that seemed laughably small against the massive alien vessel now hovering over the Pacific Ocean. Emergency broadcasts interrupted regular programming on every channel as governments struggled to present a unified response. "Their weapons systems are activating," Lizani noted with mild concern. "Primitive nuclear-based projectiles and energy weapons. Standard containment protocol." Xenteros ordered with practiced boredom. "Let them exhaust their initial aggression." The Illuminator's defensive field shimmered as the first missiles approached, disintegrating them into harmless particles that rained down as glittering dust. 3 more waves met the same fate before Earth's military leaders ordered a ceasefire. "They learn quickly," observed Tarnvel, the Consortium's cultural integration specialist. "That's promising." Xenteros nodded. "Begin Phase 2. Broadcast the first contact message on all their communication frequencies." Across Earth, screens displayed the same image. A dignified alien figure speaking in perfect English, then Mandarin, Russian, Spanish, and 24 other languages. The message promised peace, technological advancement, medical breakthroughs, and a place within the galactic community. "Sir, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures," Lizani interrupted, her brow furrowed. "They're emanating from multiple locations across the planet's surface." "Human technology." "No, Admiral. These signatures don't match anything in their infrastructure. They appear to be responding to our presence." Xenteros dismissed her concern with a wave. "Probably natural phenomena. This planet has unusual geothermal activity." In the Consortium's vast database, Earth had been categorized as Resource Class A', a world rich with minerals, biodiversity, and a native species showing remarkable potential yet centuries away from true interstellar capability. The standard protocol was clear: establish diplomatic relations, introduce limited technologies, and begin resource-sharing agreements that always favored the Consortium. As the first human delegation prepared to board a shuttle to the Illuminator, Dr. Lizani continued her analysis in private. The energy readings troubled her. They matched no known pattern in the Consortium archives, yet something about them seemed hauntingly familiar. "Computer, cross-reference these energy signatures with historical records from the pre-Consortium era," she whispered. The computer paused longer than usual before responding. "One partial match found. Warning: referenced file requires alpha-level clearance." Lizani's 4 eyes widened. She glanced around to ensure she was alone before entering her override code. A single image appeared, a star chart dating back 12,000 years, marked with similar energy signatures. At the bottom, a notation in ancient script: predecessor site, restricted by order of the First Council. As the human delegation docked with the Illuminator, Lizani quickly closed the file. The humans would be greeted with rehearsed diplomacy, offered the standard technological incentives, and assessed for their place in the Consortium hierarchy. But now she knew this wasn't just another primitive world. Something ancient slumbered on Earth, something the founders of the Consortium had feared enough to bury in their oldest records. 6 months after first contact, the Consortium's influence had spread across Earth like carefully engineered ivy. Their development centers rose in major cities, gleaming spires of impossible architecture that made the most advanced human buildings look like crude stone tools by comparison. Dr. Elena Martinez wiped sweat from her brow as the Peruvian sun beat down on the archaeological site. Before her stood Kirvesh, the consortium's archaeological liaison, his 4 eyes blinking in that particular pattern she'd come to recognize as condescension. This temple complex predates Incan civilization by thousands of years, Elena argued, pointing to the restricted excavation behind the alien. You can't just wall it off without explanation. It belongs to humanity's cultural heritage. Dr. Martinez, Kirvesh replied, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into English with perfect academic inflection. Your passion is commendable, but your understanding is limited by your species' brief scientific history. The consortium must prioritize sites for their educational value. Educational value to whom? Elena challenged. Kirvesh's skin rippled with what might have been amusement. When a parent teaches a child, does the parent require the child's permission for the curriculum? The comparison stung. Everywhere, it was the same story. The consortium's gifts came wrapped in layers of superiority. Their medicines cured diseases humans had fought for centuries. Their energy systems made fossil fuels obsolete overnight. But each advancement came with conditions and oversight that increasingly felt like control. Later that evening, Elena watched the sun set from her tent, reviewing site documentation the consortium had deemed suitable for human researchers. Something about the temple's layout bothered her. Structural elements that matched no known pre-Columbian design. Her tablet chimed with an incoming message from Dr. Yamamoto in Japan. Same situation at Yonaguni. They've restricted access to the underwater complex. Something about structural instability. It was happening worldwide. Ancient sites quarantined. Artifacts disappearing into consortium research vessels. Elena's decision came with surprising clarity. She waited until midnight, when the consortium's security drones followed their predictable patrol pattern, then slipped through the perimeter using the blind spot she'd mapped over weeks of observation. Inside the restricted area, she moved silently through chambers the consortium had already excavated. Their efficiency was remarkable. Tunnels reinforced, lighting installed, yet no human archaeologists allowed to document their heritage. In the central chamber, Elena froze. A team of consortium scientists carefully removed what appeared to be stone panels from the walls, revealing something underneath, metal that shouldn't exist in a structure this old, etched with symbols she'd never seen in any human language. Yet something about those symbols triggered a strange vertigo, a sense of déjà vu so powerful she gripped the wall to steady herself. Without conscious thought, her hand moved to her camera. The images she captured would have made her academic reputation in the world before the consortium. Evidence of advanced metallurgy thousands of years before humans supposedly developed such techniques. But now they made her something far more dangerous, a security risk. A drone's searchlight swept the chamber entrance. Elena retreated deeper into the shadows, finding a narrow passage the consortium hadn't fully explored. As she squeezed through, her light revealed more symbols carved into the stone, identical to those on the metal panels, but evidently much older. For a breathless moment, she stared at markings that predated known human civilization, yet felt inexplicably familiar, like words on the tip of her tongue. The data she smuggled out that night would disturb academic circles across the globe and draw the attention of Marcus Chen, a human translator embedded within the consortium hierarchy, who had begun noticing disturbing patterns in the information he wasn't being asked to translate. Neither of them yet realized they were pulling threads that would unravel humanity's understanding of its own history, and the consortium's real reason for coming to Earth. Elena's encrypted video conference connected researchers from 6 continents, their faces illuminated by screen glow in darkened rooms. Trust had become as precious as the artifacts they discussed. The symbols from Peru match those found beneath Giza, said Dr. Abazi, sharing his screen. And these from Yonaguni underwater structures. And these, added Dr. Singh from her New Delhi apartment, recently uncovered in Kashmir before the consortium declared it restricted. Different locations, cultures, and time periods, Yet the same distinctive patterns appeared in sites separated by oceans and millennia. It defied every established archaeological principle. "They're systematically removing evidence," Alina said. "But of what?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Marcus Chen's message arrived encrypted through 3 proxy servers. "Meet tonight. I know what they're hiding." Marcus had leveraged his position as a human translator for the consortium to access their classified archaeological database. When they met in a crowded Beijing market, his eyes carried the haunted look of someone who'd seen too much. "The consortium has identified over 300 sites of special interest on Earth," he whispered as they walked among vendors. "Internal communications show growing alarm among their scientists. Whatever they found doesn't fit their understanding of human development." He slipped her a data crystal. "Coordinates for a site in the Gobi Desert. Their highest priority. They're planning a major excavation next week." "Why help me?" Alina asked. Marcus hesitated. "Because when I saw those symbols in the database, I dreamed of them that night. Symbols I'd never seen before, yet somehow knew." 3 days later, Alina's unsanctioned expedition crossed the Mongolian border. 6 scientists and 2 former military specialists, all driven by the conviction that humanity deserved its own history. Satellite imagery had revealed recent consortium activity at the coordinates, but their timing was perfect. The alien team had temporarily withdrawn to their orbital platform for some kind of astronomical observation. Ground-penetrating radar revealed a structure far larger than expected, buried beneath centuries of sand. They worked through the night, digging where the consortium had already begun excavation, following a tunnel that descended at an impossible angle through solid bedrock. "This cutting precision," whispered Dr. Katri, running her hand along the perfectly smooth wall. "It doesn't match any known ancient tool technology." The tunnel ended at what appeared to be a solid wall until Alina's light caught a familiar pattern of symbols. As she approached, fine particles of sand skittered across the floor, drawn toward the wall as if pulled by static electricity. "There's energy coming from inside," said Yusuf, their physicist. "Some kind of electromagnetic field." When Alina placed her hand near the central symbol, the impossible happened. The symbol began to glow with soft blue light. Then another, and another. A perfect sequence activating across the ancient stone. "It's responding to your presence," Marcus whispered in awe. The wall separated along invisible seams, revealing a chamber undisturbed for what carbon dating would later prove to be at least 50,000 years. The air that rushed out carried a faint electrical charge that made their skin tingle. Inside, they found a curved wall covered in perfectly preserved symbols, identical to those found globally, but more numerous, more complete. As Alina approached, the entire sequence illuminated with the same ethereal blue glow. Marcus stepped forward, eyes wide. "These aren't just similar to consortium script," he said, voice breaking with the implications. "They're an earlier version of it, the root language." Before they could process this revelation, the ground trembled beneath them. Something massive was awakening deep below, systems dormant for millennia responding to human presence after an age of silence. Their phones simultaneously blared emergency alerts, multiple consortium vessels breaking atmosphere, converging on their location. In orbit, aboard the consortium command ship, Admiral Xen Taros received a classified transmission from the consortium homeworld, ordering the immediate implementation of Protocol Predecessor, a containment measure not used in 7,000 years of consortium exploration. The transmission ended with words that sent ice through his veins. "Possible awakening event detected. Secure the inheritors." The consortium's announcement dominated every screen worldwide. A human health initiative requiring DNA sampling from population centers across the globe. Customized medical treatments was the promise, delivered with the same benevolent smile alien representatives had perfected since first contact. "It's a lie," Marcus said flatly. Alina studied the consortium announcement from their hideout, an abandoned maintenance bunker beneath what had once been Beijing's subway system. Their escape from the Gobi site had been narrow. the desert behind them erupting with consortium landing craft as they fled through a network of tunnels that seemed to map themselves in Alina's mind as she ran. "They're looking for something in our genetic code," Marcus continued, displaying stolen files on a secure tablet. After the Gobi site activated, internal communications went berserk. Terms like genetic markers and dormant sequences keep appearing. Alina rubbed her temples, fighting another headache. Since touching the symbols, her dreams had become vivid collages of stars, strange worlds, and technologies beyond comprehension. Sometimes she woke knowing things she couldn't possibly know. "We need an expert," she said finally. "Someone who understands genetics but isn't working for them." That expert turned out to be Dr. Sanjay Kapoor, once the world's leading genetic engineer before the consortium declared his research obsolete. They found him operating a clinic from the basement of an abandoned hospital in Mumbai, treating patients with homemade versions of consortium medicines. "So you're the troublemakers," he said when they arrived, his laugh surprisingly warm despite the circumstances. "Good. Someone should be making trouble." In his makeshift lab, Sanjay analyzed blood samples from their team. 3 days later, his expression as he called them to his workstation suggested findings beyond even his expectations. Human DNA contains embedded sequences that cannot have evolved naturally on Earth, he explained, displaying complex molecular structures on his screen. These sequences appear dormant yet structured like activation codes. In plain language, parts of our genetic code look engineered. Engineered by whom? Alina asked, though some part of her already suspected the answer. "That's where it gets interesting," Sanjay continued. "The sequences don't match any known terrestrial pattern, but they do show striking similarities to fragmentary data in the consortium medical protocols I've appropriated." Marcus leaned forward. "Are you saying the consortium engineered human DNA?" "No," Sanjay corrected. "I'm saying whoever engineered these sequences predates the consortium. By their own historical records, these patterns are associated with something they call predecessor technology, devices they've discovered but never fully understood." The revelation struck like a physical blow. Alina steadied herself against a workbench as images flashed through her mind. Star maps, vast ships, and a desperate plan enacted as some catastrophe loomed. Their discovery might have remained theoretical if not for Dr. Lizani. The consortium scientist contacted them through channels so secure they couldn't trace her location. Her message was brief but changed everything. Classified files revealing humanity's true heritage. Asterisk, you are not just another primitive species. Asterisk, her message read. Asterisk, you are genetic descendants of the predecessors, the beings who built the quantum tunnels connecting distant stars before vanishing from the galaxy. The consortium has suspected this possibility for months and has been systematically removing evidence while preparing containment protocols. Asterisk. Attached was footage from a restricted consortium database, artifacts responding specifically to human touch, ancient systems activating only for human DNA, and something labeled the Awakening Protocol. As Alina watched the files, the strange headache returned with crushing force. She collapsed to the floor, eyes rolling back as symbols identical to those in the ancient sites appeared in her mind with perfect clarity. Somehow, the dormant code within her had begun to activate. Through her pain, she gasped words in a language she'd never learned. The children remember. The legacy awakens. Above Earth, consortium military vessels entered orbit in unprecedented numbers. The hunt for genetic anomalies had begun in earnest. The consortium's unified front fractured in full view of humanity. The Tellurian delegation's speaker, Moxrala, hijacked global communication networks with technology that bypassed consortium safeguards, technology that shouldn't have existed outside their homeworld. His slender form appeared on screens worldwide, 4 arms raised in the ancient Tellurian gesture of truth-speaking. People of Earth, you carry the legacy of those we once called teachers, the beings who raised our ancestors from primitive states before disappearing. What the consortium calls guidance is control born of fear. The broadcast cut abruptly as Consortium military forces stormed the Tellurian embassy. Satellite feeds captured the firefight that followed. Tellurian security forces using weapons against their own allies, defending the truth with their lives. Admiral Xen Taros stood on the command deck of the flagship, scales flushed with rage. "I want every human showing signs of genetic activation contained. Immediately." "Sir," his second officer replied cautiously, "the Tellurian revelation has triggered civil unrest in 27 major human cities. Containment on this scale will require—" "Whatever it requires," Xen Taros interrupted. "The Council has authorized emergency protocols. If the activation spreads, everything we've built for 10,000 years could unravel." In Mumbai, Alina regained consciousness in Sanjay's lab to find her mind altered. Information flooded her awareness: star charts, quantum equations, and coordinates to locations she'd never visited. "Something's happening across the globe," Marcus told her, displaying news feeds on multiple screens. "People collapsing with symptoms identical to yours. The Consortium is calling it a neurological epidemic and rounding up the affected." Alina sat up with sudden urgency. "We need to go to Antarctica." "Antarctica?" Sanjay questioned. "The Consortium has no major installation there." "No," Alina replied with certainty it came from somewhere beyond her own knowledge. "But we do." Within Earth's governments, chaos erupted. Some leaders called for cooperation with Consortium demands, while others rallied behind the resistance forming in the shadows of Consortium rule. Military commanders worldwide received troubling reports. Soldiers were increasingly refusing orders to detain their own citizens. Dr. Sanjay's continued research revealed the terrifying Consortium endgame. They planned to harvest the genetic keys from human DNA while eliminating the carriers, gaining control of predecessor technology without human involvement. "The activation is accelerating," he explained, displaying global data. "When enough humans awaken, something will happen. Something the Consortium fears more than anything." Alina led their growing resistance force toward Antarctica, guided by memories that weren't entirely her own. 3 hypersonic aircraft, secretly maintained by military sympathizers, carried them over churning seas toward coordinates that appeared in Alina's mind with perfect clarity. As they approached what satellite imagery showed as an ordinary snow-covered mountain, Consortium vessels appeared on their radar, a full tactical squadron deployed to intercept. "They know," Marcus said grimly, watching the approaching signatures. Alina touched his arm, suddenly calm despite the danger. "They're too late." The leading Consortium vessel fired the first shot, a precision energy beam meant to disable their aircraft. But before it could connect, something impossible happened. The mountain below them shimmered, its snowy surface rippling like disturbed water, and the Consortium beam reflected back with amplified force, disintegrating the attacking ship in a flash of light. Previously undetected defense systems activated around the mountain, ancient weapons powering up after millennia of dormancy. 3 more Consortium craft fell from the sky before the others retreated to a safe distance. "How?" Marcus whispered, staring at the mountain as it began to transform, sections of snow and ice sliding away to reveal gleaming metal beneath. "They built it for us," Alina answered, her eyes reflecting the glow of awakening technology. "Our ancestors. This isn't a natural formation, but a massive disguised structure. And it recognizes us as its rightful inheritors." As their aircraft approached a newly revealed landing platform, Alina navigated with the confidence of someone returning home after a long absence. Inside the mountain waited technology beyond human comprehension, yet Alina moved through its corridors as if she had walked them 1,000 times before. The Antarctic facility hummed with ancient power as Alina led her team through corridors that seemed to illuminate at her approach. Surfaces that had remained dormant for millennia responded to her touch, displays activating with information in the same script they'd found at sites around the world. "How can you understand this?" Marcus asked as Alina interfaced with the alien technology without hesitation. "I don't know," she admitted. "It's like remembering something I never learned." The central chamber housed an immense crystal matrix suspended in a gravitational field, pulsing with blue-white energy that intensified as Elena approached. Concentric rings of control stations surrounded it, their surfaces marked with the now familiar symbols. "This is a memory arc," Elena explained, her voice carrying echoes of ancient knowledge. "Our ancestors built it as their last act before sacrificing their technological advancement." Her hands moved across control surfaces with precision born of genetic memory, activating systems that had waited patiently for the return of those who could operate them. They knew they would be forgotten. She continued as images began forming in the air around them. Star maps, spacecraft designs, and faces of beings recognizably human yet somehow more. They chose to hide their legacy within us, knowing that one day we would rediscover who we truly are. The facility's central matrix flared suddenly, emitting a pulse of energy that passed through solid matter, as if it weren't there. Around the world, the pulse connected with humans carrying the activated genetic markers, a signal that unlocked what had been dormant for countless generations. People collapsed in streets, homes, and workplaces as their minds flooded with knowledge from ancestors who had sailed between stars. A subway driver in Tokyo suddenly understood the quantum principles of interdimensional travel. A farmer in Kenya saw visions of worlds orbiting distant suns. A child in Brazil began drawing perfect schematics for technology that wouldn't be invented for another century, except that it had been invented long ago. In orbit, Admiral XN Taros received increasingly desperate reports. "The signal cannot be blocked," his communications officer reported, skin pale with fear. "It's using quantum channels we can't intercept." "Launch the assault on the Antarctic facility," XN Taros ordered. "Use maximum force. Whatever is happening must be stopped." The consortium command ship deployed weapons designed to annihilate cities, firing directly at the awakened predecessor base. Energy beams capable of vaporizing mountains struck shields that strengthened with each attack, absorbing the energy and converting it to power the facility's systems. Marcus, watching the futile assault through the facility's monitoring systems, turned to Elena in awe. "They can't touch us." Through the genetic awakening spreading across the planet, humanity began learning the truth. They were descendants of the galaxy's most advanced civilization, one that faced extinction from an enemy so powerful they made the ultimate sacrifice, abandoning their technology and encoding their knowledge genetically, to remain dormant until the species redeveloped the capacity to wield it responsibly. As Marcus's own genetic memory activated, slower due to his mixed heritage, he understood with stunning clarity. They didn't just hide their knowledge in our DNA. They designed us to be the perfect interface for their technology. The ancient system projected images of the predecessor's final days, a civilization at its peak, facing an enemy they called the Void. Rather than be consumed or corrupted, they executed an unprecedented plan. They would hide their children on a protected world, encoding their knowledge within them, but suppressing it until they evolved the wisdom to use it. Earth wasn't a random evolutionary cradle, but a carefully prepared sanctuary, seeded with humanity, and then hidden behind a veil of apparent cosmic insignificance. As the genetic awakening spread exponentially, predecessor technology hidden beneath oceans, mountains, and deserts sprang to life in response to the call of its rightful inheritors. Admiral XN Taros watched helplessly as human figures appeared on his command deck, not physically present, but projected through technology that bypassed all consortium defenses. Elena's voice echoed through every consortium vessel. "The children remember, the legacy awakens, and we have much to discuss about the future of this galaxy." Massive structures rose from Earth's oceans, breaking the surface with surprisingly little turbulence as water sheeted off ancient hulls, designed to withstand the pressures of deep space. In the Mariana Trench, the deepest facility emerged, a cylindrical structure 15 kilometers high that had rested on the ocean floor for 50,000 years, awaiting the signal to reawaken. Similar events occurred worldwide. In the Amazon rainforest, trees centuries old shifted aside as the Earth opened to reveal launch platforms. Beneath the Sahara, sand drained away through suddenly porous bedrock, uncovering an installation larger than Manhattan. Humans with activated memories found themselves drawn to these sites, their bodies and minds working in perfect harmony with technology, built specifically for their genetic profile. Children who had never seen a spaceship intuitively understood navigation systems. Elderly men and women who had never studied physics grasped principles that unified quantum mechanics and relativity. In orbit, the consortium fleet found itself surrounded by defense platforms that had lain dormant at the solar system's edge. Quantum beacons activated, broadcasting signals across the galaxy through pathways the consortium had never detected. Admiral Xen, facing the collapse of everything he understood, made a final desperate gambit. His flagship moved into low Earth orbit, weapon systems targeting major population centers. Humanity will submit to genetic modification, he broadcast globally, or we will execute planetary sterilization protocols. You have one planetary rotation to comply. Elena, now serving as humanity's voice from the Antarctic Command Center, responded by activating the planetary defense grid. A shimmering field extended from the awakened installations, enveloping the entire planet in a protective barrier that rendered Earth untouchable. Your threats are meaningless, she replied, her voice calm. But your presence is still valuable. There is something you need to see. The Antarctic facility projected a galactic display visible to everyone on Earth and every consortium vessel, a visualization of sensor data from the quantum beacons. At the galaxy's edge, massive void ships approached, entities of darkness that consumed light and energy, leaving dead systems in their wake. This is why the predecessors sacrificed everything, Elena explained. They didn't just disappear. They faced an enemy they called the Void, a consciousness that consumed entire star systems. They drove it beyond the galactic edge, but knew it would return. The projection showed the desperate final battle, predecessor ships creating a barrier of sacrificial energy to push the Void back, knowing the cost would be their civilization itself. They seeded Earth with their children, us carrying their legacy in dormant DNA, designed to awaken only when humanity had developed both the technological capacity and emotional maturity to handle the truth. Around the world, predecessor technology continued activating as more humans connected with their genetic memory. Transportation hubs opened, allowing instant travel between distant points on Earth. Medical facilities restored those injured in the chaos of awakening. Defense systems brought down any consortium vessel that attempted aggressive action. In the Antarctic Command Center, Marcus studied the approaching Void fleet. How long do we have? 3 years, Elena answered, information flowing from the facility's sensors to her awakened mind. The Void travels slowly but unstoppably. It's drawn to advanced civilizations, particularly those using quantum technologies, like the ones we just activated across the planet, Marcus realized. Elena nodded. The predecessors knew the awakening would draw the Void's attention again. That's why they left us everything we need to fight it. Aboard the consortium flagship, Admiral Xen watched the projection with growing horror as the truth became undeniable. The ancient texts spoke of the darkness between, the enemy that had nearly destroyed the galaxy before the predecessors sacrificed themselves. Now he understood why the First Council had sealed those records, why the consortium had been directed to catalog but never activate predecessor technology. They had been hiding for millennia from the very threat that humanity was preparing to face. Open a channel to the human command, he ordered, his voice subdued. We have made a considerable error in judgment. 6 months after the awakening, Earth had transformed. Predecessor technology, responding only to human genetic signatures, revolutionized everything from energy production to medicine. Cities gleamed with architecture that blended human creativity with ancient knowledge, structures that could repair themselves and adapted to environmental needs. In the Grand Assembly Hall built within the restored Antarctic facility, representatives from 200 alien civilizations gathered, the consortium's membership now humbled by the revelation of humanity's true nature. The crystalline walls shifted with images of stars and distant worlds as Elena addressed them, her consciousness now a bridge between humanity's present and its inherited past. "We stand at a unique moment in galactic history," she began, her voice carrying without technological assistance to every corner of the vast chamber. "When those once thought primitive reveal their true heritage. The cycle our ancestors foresaw has come full circle." The assembly watched in reverent silence as she activated the galactic display, showing the approaching void fleet, still years away but moving inexorably toward populated systems. The darkness between stars flowed with purpose, consuming everything in its path. "The enemy our ancestors sacrificed everything to drive back has sensed our awakening and turns once more toward the light of civilization," Elena continued. "But this time, we do not stand alone." Marcus, now serving as humanity's chief diplomat, stepped forward. Though his genetic awakening had been slower due to his mixed heritage, that same mixture gave him unique insight into both human and alien perspectives. The predecessors built their technology to respond only to human genetic signatures, he explained, but they left plans for adaptive interfaces. "With cooperation, we can create systems that respond to compatible non-human genetics." The proposal was unprecedented. Humans would share access to predecessor technology and teach other species to use compatible systems, but only if the old hierarchies of the consortium were disbanded in favor of true partnership. From the assembly, Admiral Exenteros stepped forward. Stripped of rank after the failed threat against Earth, he now served as his species' representative. His once proud bearing was tempered by humility hard-won through understanding. "On behalf of the Araxian people," he said, "I formally apologize for our actions. We feared what we did not understand, and in our fear, we nearly destroyed the very force that may save us all." One by one, representatives of former consortium worlds pledged themselves to the new alliance. The ancient chamber, designed for this very purpose millennia ago, recorded each commitment in crystalline memory. As the assembly concluded, humans and aliens mingled freely, the old boundaries of species falling away before the greater threat on the horizon. Training centers were established on 100 worlds as humanity began teaching others to use adapted predecessor technology. On a quiet observation deck overlooking Earth, Elena and Marcus stood together, watching their homeworld glitter with the lights of reawakened predecessor cities now integrated with human settlements. "They came looking for a primitive species on a resource-rich world," Elena said, watching consortium ships now dwarfed by human vessels, emerging from once hidden shipyards beneath the Atlantic. "Instead, they found the children of those who taught them to reach for the stars," Marcus finished. "Do you think we're ready?" Elena asked, her thoughts turning to the darkness approaching from between the galaxies. "Our ancestors with all their advancement couldn't defeat the void. They could only push it back at the cost of their civilization." Marcus looked at the diverse groups of beings working together below. Humans teaching aliens to operate adapted systems, alien scientists contributing perspectives humans had never considered. "Our ancestors fought alone," he said simply. "We won't make the same mistake." At the galaxy's edge, warning beacons pulsed with increasing urgency as the void probed forward. But this time, when it reached the first star systems, it would find not a single civilization standing against it, but a galaxy united by the children of those who had sacrificed everything to give them this chance. Humanity stepped into its true legacy, not as the galaxy's newest species, but as the returning guardians of all civilization, awakened just in time to finish what their ancestors had started.